Hello and welcome to the Off With Their Headlines Patreon. You're behind the curtain. It's a little crazy back here. I don't really know what's going on, but we have a mailbag for you.
We sure do. This looked like, honestly, at first, I was like, the autumn 2025 mailbag might happen in winter of 2027 at this point.
Yeah, we've been collecting questions for a long time, but stuff has just kept happening. We are in the slow rollout of royals actually doing stuff.
Yep. And Prince Andrew, just that little
And
story.
Prince Andrew, just that little morsel, that peppercorn of a story.
But hey, I never thought that my first live TV hit would be Prince Andrew.
You did so good.
Thank you. I decided just to enjoy it.
Wait, that was your first?
That was my first live TV hit. Yeah.
Wow, they grow up so fast.
Everyone remembers their first.
I don't. I don't think I do.
Of course you don't. You're like, well, listen, when you've been on the BBC as many times as well.
No, but like most of those times, if they were when I'm thinking they probably were after the Queen died, I had blacked out for that entire month. So there's that.
Yeah, this was, again, just one TV hit. And I just said to myself, you've been waiting since you were 14 to be on TV. So just enjoy this. Don't think about everything that could go wrong or failing this audition or whatever.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it. Enjoy the
Yeah.
process. I pulled the World card in tarot, which is the end of the major arcana and cycles ending and accomplishing goals. So I said, you got good energy. So it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Oh, good job. I'm so proud of you. Well, Meredith, are you ready to answer some questions?
I don't know, because you told me, and this always makes me a little nervous, you told me not to look at the mailbag yet. That makes me concerned about what the first question is.
So
Can I look now?
No. Well, if you want to. So we're going to start with one that I have added. The rest of them are all from our Patreon. So thank you so much, Patreonians. We do.
So sorry. I just looked.
I just had to. I had to add this one. So this first one comes from me, Amanda, for Meredith. Meredith, is it racist to think that $64 is too expensive for a candle? Or perhaps $89 for a champagne that you've never tasted? And just to add a little context, because our Patreonians are so good at adding context to their questions, I would like to point out that Veuve Clicquot, which comes in a lovely gift box, is between $60 to $75. So discuss.
You're trying to get me in trouble, and I do not appreciate it. You chose violence. It's Monday morning. Okay.
Listen.
This is amazing. Yeah, I guess my follow-up question would be, did you do the same thing with Goop? Did you do the same thing with other celebrities? Why are white women trying to take down Meghan with their hate and vitriol? Here's the thing. I say that jokingly. There are white women. Standard, we haven't always been great, to put it lightly.
Very lightly.
That are going after Meghan because they hate Meghan, and that is based in racism and, all that
She
stuff.
didn't cheer for the Toronto Blue Jays, okay?
Yeah, how dare she? Here is the thing. I have questions about the price points of some of these things because there is a debate. I think the larger debate here isn't so much about that candle, which I bought it. I bought the wedding one. I already regret it. So many people reached out and said, yeah, that was well past my price point. I said, mine too. But I got caught up in that scarcity that, the marketing,
the marketing's
worked.
good. And I remember her saying, though, that she didn't want to rely on the scarcity mindset and she wanted there to be enough to go around. But I also go back to her saying, as you pointed out, the under $10 item as her hero product, which has also gone by the wayside because the fruit spread is now $12 a jar.
And that was something I noticed when I went back, because of course that raspberry spread came back as a solo item 3 days later. And I said, that would have been great the day
Good
of.
to know, so I could get free shipping.
Yeah. And so I checked that out and it's $12. And that the whole thing, and the only reason I bring this up is because Meghan and her team brought it up. This isn't me making up this concept of Meghan saying there's a hero piece that's under $10 so everyone can enjoy it. That's a thing. And I think it is reasonable to ask, what are the reasons for a $3 price jump in the first year of a company? Yes, tariffs. Yes, all of that. That's a huge jump, though.
But I don't
That's a big jump.
But tariffs, I thought it's fruit.
Or production cost, or maybe production
I don't
costs.
think I don't think
maybe
it could be
tariffs don't.
Unless the components come from out of the, I don't know.
That's a good point. Maybe just the cost of things are more expensive, but
sure.
That isn't racism. I don't know how to explain that and say that.
She is positioning herself in this way at a time when most American homes can't afford a $64 candle to warm the holiday spread.
I'm also considering this relatability. Is this something that
She never
we
said. She never said
yeah.
it.
So that's where did we project this idea onto her a bit?
Mhm.
Or was it somewhat programmed or messaged in the beginning when we were looking at an under $10 spread? And is this a pivot that people that are crazy like us have picked up on because we have been following this? Because, spoiler if you're new, we follow the British royals and coverage of the royals. So this is kind of in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, I would say, because the big thing with Meghan, and, I do this sometimes. I'll be like, well, she never said that. She and Harry never said they wanted privacy. It's completely fair to say she never said she wanted the brand to be relatable, but her show, which is linked to the brand, they are, I would say, sisters because Netflix is financing the production or whatever. We still don't really have clarity on how that works. They're partners in her company, I guess she has said. The show is very much, well, if you don't have XYZ resources, this is so easy to do at home. Like you can just DIY it. And that was something I picked up with the first season and the first product launch. I even posted like, hey, if you can't spend whatever it was, $14, $12 on flower sprinkles, go to your local grocery store. Go to your local Chinese grocery store, whatever. Get these dried flowers. You can make it yourself. It's so easy. And even people there were like, well, yeah, but don't tell people not to support Meghan. I don't know. The messaging has gotten a little garbled, I think.
I think so too. I think that maybe there was an original intention to say, let's make things affordable so people can get in and maybe we hook them a bit and then maybe they'll be willing to pay a little bit more. And they definitely have more data on who their consumer is. And it
Mhm.
probably is at this point upper middle class, although let's be honest, what is middle class at this point? People that have extra money. And
You can't
yeah.
downplay the aspirational buyer
Oh,
too.
no, not at all, and I think that's a big part of it, but it's not like the people that can't pay $12 for sprinkles, flower sprinkles, and can make them themselves, that was never taking away from her product. The idea that you're hurting her business is so outlandish to
Mhm.
suggest that one individual saying, "Hey, you could go and buy flower sprinkles if you can't afford them." With the idea being, yeah, if you love Megan, one day you probably want to get the flowers that she uses in the beautiful packaging. But for now, here's an option. That's not hurting her business.
And the last point that people make is like, well, would you do this to Flamingo Estate, which I guess is Pamela Anderson's brand? It's like very white women, curated, gifty things to the point where the prices aren't even on the homepage
Okay.
because the California native mountain wildflower honey is $48. Do I
Yeah,
think, would I do
I
that to
would.
Flamingo Estate? Yes. That's
Yeah.
insane.
If I
That's
followed
insane.
Pamela Anderson, I would. But also, I didn't, and I know this is more like my own personal gripe because here's the thing, people don't see everything that you create and assume that where they're meeting you is the totality of your creator life. I did a video comparing jams in the beginning when people were talking about how expensive a $9 jam was. So it is, I think this is more, it's frustrating as a creator when you need to deal with this stuff because there are times where I make mistakes or I don't see the lens of something because I am a white woman with some amount of privilege. But this is not the case. I
Yeah,
don't know how to even
this
say
is
it.
not one of those times. I think we have thought this through. We've gotten a sample data set, right? Like in our followers and people sending us DMs saying, no, I can't afford this. Like I was shopping, but I can't buy anything because it's hard out here. I I don't think it takes away from the fact that, yes, many Black women around the world own Le Creuset stoneware, and I don't, but like, I don't think we can apply that same lens.
There's this very weird thing where it becomes just because you can't afford it doesn't
Right,
mean and
right.
it's a weird,
It's stan
almost
culture. I think it's stan
classism.
culture at that
I
point.
don't get it.
Thank you for unpacking that with me. Should we get into the listener questions
Yes.
now?
Do we want to start with more of a topical royal question?
Yes, please.
Okay. This question comes from Ari. They write, I keep seeing the British press float the idea of Beatrice and Eugenie becoming working royals. Andrew Lowney's book on the Yorks alludes to the princesses being linked to Andrew's business dealings in the Middle East. If that's true, would it prevent them from ever stepping into official roles? This is a great question. And I actually wrote in the outline, fuck yes to this question.
Do you want to hear my take really quick?
Yes, I would.
Why would it prevent them from stepping into official roles when King Charles has accepted cash in shopping bags from
And now we said it.
Middle Eastern operatives?
It's not the fact that this exists that's the problem. It's if it's public and the public is annoyed by it. Because remember, Prince Andrew's alleged offenses were no problem for the British royal family until it became untenable because of email leaks, because of books, because of pressure from the press.
Distracting. So distracting.
That's the only time it matters. I actually asked Andrew Lowney about this, which I've talked about on the podcast, because the biggest surprise for me from the book is how involved everyone else is. Because a lot of times you'll see this reaction of, well, poor Fergie or poor Beatrice and Eugenie. And no, they are very much a part of this and have learned the family business. I think that
And this is separate
Yeah.
from his alleged crimes, right?
yes, to be clear, there are allegations that he has dubious financial dealings and used his position allegedly as UK trade envoy for a decade to pretty much enrich himself. And there are things that people want to dig into that the government is preventing. I think that Beatrice and Eugenie still could do those kind of volunteer roles, but they're not looking to expand the monarchy. They've spent so much time talking about a slimmed down monarchy, less cost to the taxpayer. You're not going to retroactively do that and add them back in. I think they are going to take a step back. We're not going to see them for a while. And then I think slowly but surely, we're going to see them at a Buckingham Garden party or Royal Ascot. We'll start seeing them peppered in, but I bet you there's concern on their part of what someone could dig up, because they do have dealings with
Yeah.
Middle Eastern companies and,
Yeah. Well, and they have their own security costs, which I think I recently saw were estimated about £500,000 a year. So they have to finance that somehow. They don't get paid by the royal family, but
and they do
they're-
have jobs, to be
Yeah,
clear. They
yeah.
have jobs, they have husbands, but the idea that these people are just automatically wealthy is not necessarily true.
Yeah, no, a lot of the British royal family's wealth is tied to properties and stuff that's tied up in the estates and has stipulations applied to it. So, yeah, in terms of what you said, peppering them into engagements, I wonder if we'll see them at Christmas. It could probably be well, they were here last year. This year they went to the husband's family.
Who had a baby this year? Beatrice?
Was it Beatrice this year or was that last year?
I
Her
don't even
daughter was
remember.
a little premature.
Maybe.
I think she was pregnant last Christmas and then it was early this year she had the baby.
I feel like we are going to get it's a lot
They're with
this
the
year with the
in-laws
baby.
this year. Yeah, something.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get that. They're gonna quietly go away this year, and maybe the following Christmas we will see them at the walkabout.
And that'll be kind of the start of a new cycle. Interesting. Oh, great insights. Yeah, and we did talk about this a couple episodes back when we first mentioned Andrew Lowney's book, I believe. So go check that out if you want more. All right, let's do a more evergreen question. Okay, here's one from NM. It's like a two-pronged question. So they asked, as Americans and people who view the British monarchy through an external lens, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the monarchy needs to do to thrive and reach the level of success to survive, say like the Danish or the Jordanian monarchy. This person is British and they witness it internally. They think about how they needed to embrace Meghan and needed to show the British public that they are good value, that they're worth having, which they're not doing right now. And then they also asked us to explain a little bit more about SEO.
Ooh,
which I think ties in nicely. So, Meredith, do you have any thoughts on what they need to do to thrive, not just survive, but thrive?
they need to invest in long-term thinking. So many of their actions are stopgaps and short-term protect the current monarch. And they have made so many steps and new rules about working royals versus non-working royals and how you can just take away titles that starts to invalidate the system. The system depends on the buy-in that there is something special about this bloodline. They might not have divine rule, right, anymore, but they have to convince the public that they are worthwhile to have around. And I think that's part of the struggle right now is how do you do that within the current system with the way that they are paid and funded and the kind of engagements they do. And right now, I have a really hard time seeing how William's plan to be, someone called him a Zoom royal, is
I loved
going
that.
to work in a modern era unless there are some significant changes to how they are funded, to what sort of laws apply to them or not. And so I think right now they are just kind of struggling to stay afloat and playing whack-a-mole with different distractions. And no one's really looking at the larger picture. I wonder, I really do. And I don't know if we'll see the monarchy end in our lifetime, but I wonder if there have been too many mistakes and mishaps, especially with the handling of Harry and Meghan, that is there any way back? Is there any way to get on good footing? Was there really a chance after the Elizabethan era was done?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's so many missed opportunities, which I think people really point to with Harry and Meghan. But if you do want to compare to, say, yeah, the Danish or the Jordanian, I don't know if the Jordanian monarchy is a fair comparison because that's a very different type of regime, society. There's a lot of baked in stuff that we don't necessarily need to unpack here. But something like, yeah, the Danish is a good example because they have a very high approval rating and they've adopted, the practice of abdication just as a way to transition from reign to reign. So I think less paying attention to approval ratings in the short term, like you were saying, would be very helpful. Less making decisions based on the optics. We've seen a couple instances in the last year where I think we have used the press to give a dry run or a soft launch to a story, see how it plays, and then make the official announcements. And of course, that's, me speculating. But I would love to see, like you said, less of that short term and reactivity, especially. Something like with the Danish monarchs, we talked very recently about Queen Margrethe, who did strip titles from her grandchildren. She made them counts and countesses, I think, instead of HRHs. And she later apologized because she went a little too hard thinking about the monarchy first and not about the family. And I think the British royal family, yes, she apologized for that, but the move, everyone I think agrees, was good for the monarchy at the end of the day. The British monarch, whether we're talking about Charles right now or William in the future, does need to put the institution first. That's just the name of the game here. I know it sounds shitty, especially when we bring in family time and kids. And if that institution is incompatible with what we now know is needed for healthy lives and healthy families, then yeah, let's revisit the institution, but you're still the head of the institution for the time being.
And kind of like you said, they really pick and choose when it's family first and when it's crown first, because
Mhm.
Andrew should have been dealt with a long time ago. And I think if he was any other member of the family, he would have. And there were a lot of times where Harry and Meghan are critiqued for not understanding that the institution comes first. It's
It's like,
not all
well,
about
for
them.
who? For who does it come
Exactly.
first?
The issue is the rules and standards are not applied evenly. And that's the problem, because then there are no rules. There are no rules. And a
Just
monarchy
vibes.
needs rules. There
No
needs to be
rules,
a
just vibes.
framework. Just vibes. That doesn't actually work with an institution like this. So, like you said, I think a reevaluation or a reckoning kind of has to happen with what does this look like
Mhm.
in modern times.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Yeah,
touch on SEO? Because
I absolutely do. Yeah. So this is something that gets brought up a lot when we are asked, why do you still call her Kate Middleton?
how dare you say Meghan Markle?
So SEO, which is the reason most of us still refer to the royals by maiden names or, Princess Kate, even though that's not really her title. It stands for search engine optimization. And this is something creators use. This is something that outlets like People Magazine use. I see them tagged a lot by royalists. Call her Catherine, Princess of Wales. It's like that's not gonna work for the reasons that they need it to. So what we are thinking about is SEO, search engine optimization, which is kind of a best practice in publishing media online where you are making sure that your content is searchable. It's optimized for search engines. Basically, when people go searching for a topic, your content is going to be there in front of them. So there's all these algorithms, whether it's Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, Meta, whatever, that kind of crawl the internet searching for the best content for each topic. They know who we are, what we're posting. They know what people are searching for, and their job is to kind of match up the two.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons if you start looking at articles closely, you'll see it'll be like Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex,
Yeah.
recently said, and then it goes on and you'll
The
see
wife
Duchess
of
of Sussex,
Prince Harry.
the wife of Prince Harry. You're
Yeah.
saying that you're seeing that for a reason because someone might go in for like the Dodgers thing recently and say Meghan Markle Dodgers. you don't have Meghan Markle in your
Mhm.
article, you might not show up. Or Prince Harry's wife, Dodgers, if someone can't think about it. And
Or World
that's
Series instead of
that's why you
Dodgers.
have it, especially because names like Kate Middleton and Meghan Markle are stickier because they've been around longer. They were used a lot in the beginning. So I understand the respect component of, say, using Meghan Sussex, but that's not going to rank. And it is much better to say Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, and also Meghan Markle because of that stickiness, because you are trying to reach people. So there's kind of a bunch of different things going on here. But at
Yes.
the end of the day, capitalism wins out. It sucks, but
Yeah, unfortunately. But, in practice, this is also why when you go search a recipe, you have to wade through 5 pages of a blog post about childhood memories associated with the recipe because they need to work in as many phrases and keywords as possible to get that result in front of people. So for us, it's keywords in text. Captions on social media even apply now because they are now searchable. Titles, some people do meta descriptions or image descriptions, and even just like structuring, like say we're doing a Substack, structuring it in such a way that Google can easily pull from it. So that's SEO in a nutshell. I'm sure there's much more technical
it's a very good
jargon that could go into it.
it's a good overview
Yeah. And
of
one thing
this.
when you are a creator, you do kind of have to decide on your SEO, your keyword bank and like what you're going to use. So like a lot of my content is hashtagged Royal TEA because that's something I've branded myself from the beginning. And when now that's the name of my book that's coming out in spring 2027. So that'll play into in the
I didn't
ecosystem
know
eventually.
that. Wow, what a
Well,
drop on here.
it's the working title, yeah, the Royal T.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like
So
that.
that kind of all explains the ecosystem. And like, it's a long game in that way, right? Like, I've been using that hashtag. And now when the book comes out, all my content will probably come up if people search for the book. So, yeah, that's SEO in a nutshell.
There you go.
I know we talk about it sometimes, but we've never really explained it. So that was good.
Yeah, that was good. Also, a really good book to further understand SEO, or if you want to get like really granular. There's a book by her name's Safia Noble, I believe. It's called The Systems of Oppression, and
Mm.
it's all about the Google algorithm
Yeah.
and the way it's
Yeah.
racist.
Not saying I like it. I don't like the system, but
Sometimes you
it's
have to
what you
play
gotta
within the
do.
system to break the system as well.
Yeah,
You learn the
unfortunately.
rules, you kind of have to follow, and then you can break some. So let's do like an offline real life question.
Okay. Before we
That'd be
circle back
fun.
to the royal
Yep.
stuff again.
So Isabel asks, what song are you claiming from Life of a Showgirl? Personally, she says she's going with the title track because she can't wait for the Sabrina collab. Now, this was probably written before
It was.
the album came out.
She followed up then.
Yeah, she did do a follow-up question. Very good journalism. So just getting to know our favorites, which this album dropped the weekend of your wedding, which what timing?
Yeah,
So why don't you
yeah.
go first?
It was can I just talk about my relationship with this album because of that? Yeah, it dropped the Thursday night before our wedding. So I stayed up late and listened to it. And I was like, I need to know. I need to know what I'm playing the morning of while I'm getting ready. I listened to it beginning to end. And then the next day, while we were like getting ready for stuff, again, I just had it on loop all weekend, except for like actually at the wedding. So I think in the beginning, I was really excited for Eldest Daughter because I am an eldest daughter.
Relatable.
And that is one that I know in post-release conversations hasn't been getting a lot of love. I still like it, and it really did touch me in a way because it was my wedding weekend where I liked that it wasn't just, oh, poor me, I'm an eldest daughter, because like we do that anyway. It was like, this is my struggle, and I recognize this as your struggle, talking to my partner, and now we don't have to worry about it anymore. And I was just like, wow, like that's so nice. So I do cry at the bridge every time I listen. Post-release, though, my favorite I think is Opalite, which I think is going to be her summer single next year, and well-deserved. Like that would be my suspicion, right? Because it's just, you can bop to it. And same thing, like I woke up the morning of the wedding and I was like, the sky does look like Opalite. This is so nice. And I was just like kicking my feet in the hotel room. Meredith and I had been in bed together the night before and it was just lovely.
Very platonic. Don't start rumors.
So yeah, those are my two that like were hyped, and then the one that kind of came in out of nowhere. But they kind of just encapsulate that weekend for me, which was just very tender and warm and loving. And yeah. What about you, Meredith?
So for me, I did listen to it all the way through a couple of times. My first loves were like, I love Opalite. I love Eldest Daughter. What I'm going to say is, this is not an album I've revisited.
Really?
I listened to it and I don't find myself going back to it. And what dropped about, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, or maybe a week ago. I don't know. Time has no meanings. Is Lily Allen's West End Girl.
Yes.
And I'm gonna tell you something. That's the fucking album I need right now.
That's a great
Okay?
album.
Taylor, I am so happy that you are happy. I need a story.
You weren't yeah.
I need to be in a different place. I
Yes.
need to
That makes
go
sense.
through all of these emotions. I need that sardonic humor that Lily Allen does
And
so
who's
well.
Madeline?
And who's Madeline? The whole
That
I
was really
literally will
good.
just say that during the day. The whole album is amazing. Lily Allen discussing basically the downfall of her marriage to David Harbour. Obviously, there are artistic liberties taken, but when you listen to the song Pussy Palace, oh my God. It is so good. I love Sleepwalking. I think it is a beautiful song and it's very relatable if you've ever had someone kind of make everything your fault and they just kind of keep going and going to the point where you just are kind of like, you kind of shut down and you don't know what to do. It's great press too for the fact that she's selling that townhouse. I mean, what timing? And so I would say though, listen to Tennis and Madeline back to back, those
Okay.
two songs.
And
They are
who's
so good.
Madeline?
Like for me, I heard a critique of Taylor's album that I really thought about a lot that Taylor, and I'm not even meaning this in
You're
like
you're in a safe place.
yeah, I don't mean this in a mean way. Like I do like Taylor Swift's albums, but in many ways it doesn't feel like she's grown with me. And
Mm.
I'm only 2 years older than Taylor. And someone said that she doesn't have an interest in like the world and what's going on. And it shows in her songs. Because yeah, they're about like the one song on her album that's about senior prom or something. I was like, give me a fucking
Yeah.
break. Like, are we really doing this? Like, because she's done it so well. She's already done that so well. Why are we doing this in your mid 30s? I
Yeah.
just sometimes I'm really glad she's happy, but I actually think when artists have something painful to write about and I don't wish pain on them, you just get better products. I mean, Rumors by Fleetwood Mac, Alanis Morissette's You Ought to Know. You know, you could go on and on and on. Lily Allen's West End Girl. I think that's just like what I'm craving right now is a little cheekiness, a little like, well, this sucked and almost drove me insane, but I guess that shows a little more where I'm at in life and where Amanda's at in
Well,
life.
exactly. That's what I was going to say. Like, Life of a Showgirl, yeah. I've seen the critiques that are like, are we really writing an album that's like, I love my boyfriend in 2025? And it's like, yes, because for some people that is their reality. And for Taylor Swift, I think a lot about, I don't know if it was a quote or like if it's an actual phenomenon that's just like I think, who was it? Somebody talked about it. Maybe Selena Gomez or Miley Cyrus. The year you get famous is the year you kind of get stuck at psychologically. And I think about that with Taylor Swift a lot because she's now going through these milestones because she's moved past the Reputation era where people were calling her a snake and she took it very seriously, which again makes its way onto Life of a Showgirl. And like Canceled is one of the weakest songs for me because like you said with Ruin the Friendship, talking about senior prom, Canceled is just like, we've done this before.
Also, you're not canceled in any way. I mean,
Right.
the idea that you can't take any of this critique or you even see most of it, I mean,
I
let's
do-
talk about something else. It's always like what's happening to Taylor.
You vibe with the Actually Romantic track though, because it's something that I can apply to my own
Wait,
life.
which one's that?
The one where she's like, oh my God, it's actually romantic. Like how much you think about me, like to the haters.
That is rough though.
And
Because
that's
she's
the one-
basically like, you cokehead, allegedly, to
That's
Charlie
the one that,
XCX.
Yeah. And then was it Hassan Minaj asked Harry about it? Like, what do you think of the Charlie XCX Taylor Swift beef? The panic on that man's face.
Because I don't even know if he knows some of these names.
No.
Or he has no idea what's going on.
I
and
loved
it's
when
so
he looked
funny.
off screen to like his handler or whoever and was just like, I don't
He's
know what
looking
to
at
do.
like his press secretary or his like PR person. He's like,
Will
is
this
this? And they're like,
affect
don't
international
answer this question.
relations? Yeah.
They're like, the only thing worse than stepping into royalist Twitter is like Taylor Swift Twitter.
Yeah,
Abort
seriously.
mission.
I loved that video. So yeah, that's where we are with Life of a Showgirl. I love it and I have been vibing with it a little bit less now, but a couple like last week when I was trying to get out of the post-wedding like rotting phase, like honeymoon's over, now I'm just in recovery mode. I would just put that album on a loop because it's very vibey and I could just like bop around, do my stuff but now I'm getting into West End Girl as well because
I encourage you to listen
Yeah.
from beginning to end.
Yeah.
It is a story.
Yeah.
It plays out
It's
chronologically. And oh my God. So I'm just rocking around my house yelling, who's Madeline? Who the
And
fuck
who's
is
Madeline?
Madeline?
Yeah. Love and Light.
Love and Light, Madeline. All right, let's go back to a royal question. What
I
do you
wanna
want to
pick-
talk about?
I want to pick This one comes to us from Alyssa, and it's something I wanted to talk about, but I think the story was emerging around my wedding, so I was not with it. Alyssa asks, there seems to be more and more stories about what Queen Elizabeth II, quote, really thought or really said about Harry and Meghan. I saw this bit after Philip died too. Like, now that they're dead, we can know what they really think. I know these stories are generally clickbait and should be taken with a grain of salt, but to the best of your knowledge, did other royals get this post death treatment of airing out private quotes about living people? Most criticism we hear does tend to be labeled at the married in people and less so with the blood royals. So that's an interesting tidbit to add as well as backdrop. I will say this story, wasn't it like a cousin of the queen had told someone what the queen thought and now that person was saying it? Like it was filtered through so many lenses
Yes.
and levels. But to answer the actual question, to the best of your knowledge, did other royals get this post-death treatment of airing out private quotes about living people? I think yes, to a degree. It happened to Diana for sure and continues to.
Well, yeah.
The Queen Mother is another one, and Margaret, where people will go on record, they'll write their own books and they'll be like, well, this person was actually like very acidic and had these attitudes and these thoughts. I don't know if it's ever been so directed at one person before in living
Let's
memory.
go back to SEO, right? And
Yeah.
what performs well.
Yeah.
When a book is promoted, for instance, they are going to take the juiciest bit that is going to get pickup from articles, in magazines and stuff. And it's going to usually do with either something super salacious or something to do with someone currently in the royal family and popular, right?
Mhm.
Or at least popular to talk about, which is Harry and Meghan. Often, especially with tabloids, you have to think about this. There's a quota of articles that they need to reach.
Mhm.
So you're going to eventually dive back into some stupid stuff. You're going to write about, can you match the feet of these royal women? Like, how well do you know their toes? And what do their toes say about them? You're going to interview the asparagus reader. You're going to do stuff like this. Yeah. And this is one of those things where some of these people will just get a book or get something and control F and find the names and pick that out as the story for Harry and Meghan. Or they're going to get a quote from someone about someone else and write a story that's presumably about the Queen Mother, but really it's about this thing that was said that they got from a source that knew the Queen Mother or whose mother knew the Queen. I mean, it's just, like you said, it is so filtered through different people's experiences and also the way that the British monarchy and these individuals are perceived right now has so much to do with it. And one of the things that I'm noticing that's interesting is we're starting to see the first critiques of Queen Elizabeth
Mm.
with the Prince Andrew handling and
Yeah.
how that was handled. And that's not something we've seen. And it kind of speaks to the attitude of the palace right now of, oh, we're in trouble. We got to try to pass the buck and blame the beloved queen a little bit, which is not something we've seen so far.
No, it's truly just starting. And yeah, that sort of historical revisionism in a way, you always have to ask, like, who does this serve, I think. So yeah, it happens. The example this person gave that leapt to their mind was King George V making his feelings about Edward VIII clear when he apparently said, after I'm dead, the boy will ruin himself in 12 months. And they wanted to know, did that come to light like at the time or was it decades later? It was, I looked into it, published in a biography about Edward VIII and like backdated to, I think, 1935. He apparently said it to the Prime Minister, Stanley Baldwin. So it's like that kind of thing. It, again, was to sell a book, a biography. That tidbit was included in there. I've also read of George V that he was a very doting grandfather because I recently was reading that Princess Margaret biography, and they talk about how George VI and the Queen Mother's townhouse you could see from like one of the windows at the palace. So George V would stand there and wave every day. And it's like, okay, well, knowing that about him, does that play into like him as a person or kind of shape the mythos of Queen Elizabeth II's childhood in a little bit of a...
I know. And it's interesting because he was a shit father.
Right.
I mean, talk about issues for King Edward at the time. And I would think one of the reasons, too, you wouldn't have heard this at the time is despite all the protestations and the revisionist history, Stanley Baldwin and the government, they did not want Edward to abdicate. They thought that it would actually be worse and destabilizing if he abdicated. But now it's like, oh yeah, they really wanted that because he went to, a state visit in Germany and met with Hitler. That's
That's
a
part of it.
It's part of
But
it, but that's also a big revisionist history of, like, the times and the attitudes, because there were some people that felt like, "We don't wanna do another war," like, maybe there is something to, this new idea of how the world can be ruled.
all this to say, I think context always matters, especially in the terms of quotes ascribed to dead people who are not here to defend intent. And, impact over intent is another conversation. But when it comes to, yeah, specifically people who have married into the institution, they are always going to be the first ones thrown into the fire as scapegoats. So using Queen Elizabeth's legacy to slam Meghan Markle, like, am I surprised to know? Is it going to go the way that the people publishing these quotes want it to go in 10, 20, 50 years? Maybe not. We'll see.
Here's my hot take. It's not really a hot take, but I believe, will continue to learn more and more that Queen Elizabeth was not running the show near the end, and she
Mm,
was in pain, right? Because of bone cancer, right? That's what we know that
we've been told. Yeah.
yeah. I think we are going to continue to find out more and more how little control she had and how much other people were making decisions or blocking certain people from seeing her, or Charles was able to push through this or push out Geit, her second to last private secretary for Sir Edward Young. I think that is going to continue to come out and is going to kind of wreak havoc over how people see the end of her reign. And we actually might see overall, depending on what Harry and Meghan do, like a softening of Harry and Meghan
Yeah. But
and like the way they're perceived. Maybe.
so do you think that story about, well, Queen Elizabeth really thought this about Meghan, is it an effort to kind of forestall that and make it out like, oh no, like even Queen Elizabeth was anti-Harry and Meghan?
I think it's partially that. I think it's mostly negative stories about Harry and Meghan sell. And there's something about people who already don't like Harry and Meghan that feel really, really good knowing that the queen, the beloved queen, also felt the same as they do. It's confirmation bias.
There you go. There it is.
I really want to do this question from Lauren. It's an offline question, but I I think it's a good one.
Wait. Okay.
2 questions from Lauren. Is it the same Lauren? I picked this question and then Amanda's going to do the question she picked. So she said, as individuals who have pivoted in your careers, Meredith has the journalism degree and did fashion, social media to media pivots, although I might be missing. Lauren, it's been a weird career. Amanda was in museum education, if I'm not mistaken, and now social media commentary and bookstore marketing. So her question is, how did you, one, know when it was time to pivot, or was it a forced move? So what I will say is I've never had a straightforward career path. I've really jumped around. And what I've found for like the totality of my career is I've always ended back in something creative, in something where I am public facing, in something that involves digital media and marketing. Because social media marketing is actually like my first big girl job and where I spent most of my career. The fashion blog thing was actually kind of a forced thing,
Oh.
which there's some fun NDA stuff there's some bullshit I can't get into. But it was one of those things where I was upset that this thing that I kind of like staked my personality around was done and my identity. There was also a part of me that felt that I was almost mad that I didn't make the decision myself because I knew it wasn't the right fit. And so what I did instead of, and this was a privilege that I had at the time, I did not rush back into I gotta find something else, or let me go back to, like, I didn't do any of that. I just kept making videos and writing because I thought about what I liked about fashion blogging. I liked the writing. I liked the talking to camera. I liked all of that. So I just kept doing that and exploring different topics. And it's a lot of, you kind of have to look at everything you create as nothing is a waste. Anything you create, even if it ends up on the cutting room floor, even if it ends up being not the thing you do. Like I did some brand deals for a while and I was, that's not really my thing. I wrote some more personal essays. I said, I don't really know if that's my thing either. It's all part of finding the thing. Because when the thing came around, which was talking about royals, I was ready. I was ready to explore that. It fit a lot of my interests in media and my background in speech and debate, and it just worked. So I would say I try to look at when things aren't working or when things end as more of a, hey, now's your opportunity to pivot and now's your opportunity for something else to open up. So if
Yes.
something doesn't feel right, letting go can be hard, but it opens you up for something that maybe you couldn't even imagine. Become much more curious about my different stepping stones and not seeing anything as like end game, to be honest,
Hmm.
than where is this all going? It's just we'll see. So that is kind of my meandering answer. What about you, Amanda?
Well, you reminded me of something. I've had it in my like affirmations note. So what something I do or started doing a couple years ago was if somebody sends me an encouraging message, I'll like copy and paste it into a notes app note. And this one has migrated into my affirmations note because it's just so like whenever I have imposter syndrome, I remember somebody like I think could sense I was feeling that way through the screen at one point and they sent me a message and they were like, "Listen, I know you talk about it being dumb luck that you're making content, but in reality, what that suggests to me is like you were, what is it? Well prepared for the right opportunity at the right time." And
Ooh,
when you were talking about like things that don't work out kind of being exercises that prepare you for the thing when the thing comes along, like that's what that reminded me of. So, kind of in the same vein, yeah, I've never been somebody that had a straightforward career trajectory either. When I started making content, I was working in museum education. Just to backtrack, I had just finished my master's in December 2019 before COVID. Yeah. And that was in museum leadership. I had previously had my degree in art history. So the goal there is to get into an art museum, curating, research, education, whatever. I was working in STEM education actually because the fundamentals are the same in the jobs that I was doing versus what I wanted, right? Like my thing that I love is research and synthesizing that into something digestible for people.
this is why we're best friends.
Yes. So I kind of picked that up during undergrad, really. Like I just love whether it's writing a label for an object or a lesson plan or a talk, like a museum talk, like whatever it is, imparting knowledge in a way that people can easily digest because museum spaces are all about informal learning, as is, I would say, a podcast or a TikTok video, right? It's not a doctoral dissertation, it's a TikTok. Come on, Mary, like lighten up. So that was kind of my overarching trajectory, which I think plays very nicely into where I've landed. But in the background of that, I was doing between undergrad and grad school, I was a nursing assistant. I was a certified nursing assistant for a year
Really?
in a dementia ward at a nursing home. So I was doing late stage memory care for a year while I like went to ground and figured out what I wanted to do. And that's another thing where you kind of have to synthesize whether it's like reality and what this person is thinking is happening and mesh the two and just look at what's in front of you and
What good preparation for dealing with people on social
stop,
media.
especially royalists. Yeah, like redirect, affirm their reality, but redirect, right? So that was something I did. I was a barista. I worked in kitchens at restaurants, like all of these little jobs. They do build you up. I think to learn how to deal with people. Before I landed my first museum education job, I worked in the call center at the museum. I answered the phones for people I can't find on your website. How do I get to you? And you're just like,
Where's my membership?
where are you coming from would be helpful to know because we're in Philadelphia off of I-76. So anyway, all these things they build up and they add life experience. So when that pivot moment comes along, I think it to a degree is easier to know that that's what you're looking at once you have that experience. So when it was time for me to pivot, and I didn't pivot entirely away, I still do bookstore marketing, which is just something I view as borderline community service at this point because it's truly a job I keep because it gets me out in my community. And I've always loved a mission oriented job too. Like, and the mission is improve literacy and improve community, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I love it. So I think overall, it just feels like we've realized it's not dumb luck. Don't undersell yourself, but a lot of it is taking experiences from all of your jobs, knowing when to let go because it will
Mhm.
open you up to opportunities that you might not have even imagined. I did not imagine I would be here with you.
And I mean, even the bookstore job for me was a thing I fell into because the bookstore was on my walk home from work from my museum education job, which I had to leave because I had been doxxed. So I was scrambling. I needed money. And I was like, well, I'm not quite ready. This would have been 2021, 22. I was like, I'm not ready to pivot full time to content creating. I knew that. I was like, I'm not making the money to afford rent and food and all these things. I need something as a stopgap and applied to the bookstore. And they were like, who's Meghan Markle? Also,
Perfect.
what are these social media things on your resume? Like, can you run our social media instead of selling coffee? And I was like, I guess. Sure.
And there you have it. It worked out,
Yeah.
you know?
So things happen in mysterious ways. And if you don't sweep out the old when it's feeling a little, and I'm obviously not saying jump off a cliff, but you have to be able to trust, I would say, timing. And I
Yes.
know this can come off very flippant, but that's something Meredith and I were talking before we started recording. I've always felt supported affirmed in the right thing, finding me at the right time. It's
Yes.
a quote from Jane Austen, Persuasion, and I'm paraphrasing from the Dakota Johnson movie because they say it like in a very like quotable way. Everything that is meant for you is meant to find you. And if it's meant for you, it's not going to leave. And I've learned to kind of not let go and trust that because that sounds very woo, but lean into that.
There's some amount of magic, I think,
There
in the
is.
world.
I think there
So
is.
I'm going to try to, I know we just did, I think that was a very good cathartic conversation. I'm going to quickly dive into a specific question for me from Lauren, which was kind of part A. As a fellow mom with young children, I am at 4 and 1.5. God bless you. How do you manage career drive with kids?
I
Oh
love
boy.
what you wrote here. Meredith just wrote in the outline, I will succeed because I am insane.
I actually, hold on one second. So this was actually from something that was sold online.
I love it.
I'm gonna tell you
Oh
something.
my
I'm gonna
God,
tell
I
you something.
need it.
I ordered 5 stickers also to send for myself and to send to people that, and you're one of the people on the list. Because it's very, like, it's so girly. But yeah, I will succeed because I'm insane, because I will do it because I have to do it, and I don't know how to do things any other way. I'm gonna tell you something though, Lauren. You are in such a difficult time where the way I looked at it and the way my mom would tell me, it was like, keep the gas on, but you might need to dial it down a bit in the beginning, whatever it is that you're interested in. Just start poking around a bit, but give yourself a lot of grace, because you are in that time where, like, you don't know if you're going to be up tonight 3 times because your 1.5-year-old decides they want juice, or if they go to daycare because of all the germs that they're home for a week because they have hand, foot, and mouth or whatever. It's a time where you really have to kind of be gentle with yourself. I have found, since all my children are now in school, it does make it a lot easier. But I will say, I have to keep my schedule really loose, and I need to work with people that understand that.
Mm.
And that can be really hard to advocate for yourself and be like, I can't be perfect and act like I don't have kids, because I do have kids and I'm a single mom, and things come up, and I've had to get
That shouldn't be a knock against you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. That
yeah.
shouldn't be a con in some column on a sheet for somebody wanting to work with you. You should be able to align yourself. And it sucks that it's so hard to find places where that's true. But to
You
understand that
usually have
that's
to work with other women.
fair.
And also, I mean, the thing that I have a client who also has kids, and she goes, here's the thing. I love hiring moms because moms are going to get things done. They're going to get things done at night. They're going to find the time and they're going to do it. It's going to get done. It might
Joe
not be.
Piazza
Yeah,
said she wrote a book on the toilet because that's where she was.
it's
She wrote
perfect.
it on her phone when she went to the bathroom.
So what I would say is, be so gentle with yourself during this period, and just in general with having children. When I can feel that the tension, like I'm getting irritated with my kids because I'm trying to focus on work, I've really tried to carve out time, and I'm still working on this, where I'm like, okay, work is put away for the next couple of hours, or I'm going to revisit this, or I want to get this done right now, but do I really have to? So
Okay,
another
Kate
helpful thing.
Middleton, epidemic of, what was it? Epidemic of unawareness or something.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm answering emails while my kids play. Also, another helpful tool that I use, if you're someone that also struggles with, like, everything feels like a priority, it's called the Eisenhower matrix. You can look it up. And it's a quadrant where you can divvy up, like, what is so pressing I need to do right now? It's urgent.
Mm,
What can wait to the end of the week? What is something that I would like to get done, but I can wait even longer? You know what I mean? You got to find those tools that work for you. But
that's a good one.
if no one has told you this today, Lauren, you're doing great.
You're doing so great. And it would be so patronizing to sit here and be like, well, you need to figure out what you value and just pare back everything that doesn't align. It's like, no, like, we do have stuff we need to get done. There is shit that needs to happen.
Yeah.
So Lauren, you are getting so much airtime today because you had such good questions. You also asked me specifically, how was it pivoting out of the educational sphere, albeit not specifically the educational system, which is an important distinction. I worked alongside the educational system during COVID. Actually, our museum became basically like a learning center for kids who were doing online learning but didn't have the support at home. It's such a needed service. I don't know why it doesn't exist. But that's what Mr. Effect, Shane, my husband, actually does full time. So I'm very close to it. They basically contract with the Charter Academy here in Pennsylvania, which is all online schooling, remote. But there are still kids who don't have the support at home, whether their parents have to work or just aren't equipped to teach kindergartners sight words. Like, that's insane. Like, don't get me started on kindergartners doing remote learning. That was a nightmare. The point of kindergarten is not learn sight words. The point of kindergarten is learn to be a human with other humans. Anyway, so I'm still very close to it. But yes, pivoting out of the educational sphere and like writing lesson plans was something I did, and just interacting with students, whether it's in workshops or we had like a science center. It teaches you so much about where people are currently. And pivoting out of that, I think it was a really useful tool to have in my back pocket, just knowing, because the educational system affects so many people that like it wouldn't affect me if I hadn't worked alongside it because I don't have kids. But that's your day in, day out if you have children or if you are an educator in the system. So it's just helpful to know like what the education system is doing to people and also what people aren't getting. Like right now in Pennsylvania, like I don't think kids are learning phonics, to be so honest with you.
Kids can't spell, by the way. I mean, I will
Yeah.
say that schools are working on it, but kids cannot spell.
There was I read an article about it like a couple years ago. There was a move away from like phonics being the foundation of reading education, and we are like trying to correct now, but there's going to be a whole generation of students who I'm sure are graduating out into the world right now who can't sound out words because they learned a different way.
Yeah, I will say at the foundation, just reading with your kids and encouraging them to read. And I've said this before that I made up this book club thing at night, which we don't do anymore. We should bring it back. But the kids could, once they could read on their own, they could come into bed and read with me. And everyone got like a chocolate, right? And it became a special thing. It was a way that I was able to keep reading and
Yeah.
having that time and
Yeah.
also could feel good that my kids are. And so it's at the point where one of my children is not an exceptional speller, but if they read a word, like they have a really big vocabulary because they've read it. And they can't remember how to spell it necessarily, but they know the word and they know how to use it, which is like sometimes half the battle. And so it's like, okay, we're going to catch up on the spelling, but really just like reading, critical thinking, just having
Please.
conversations. Like, no, everyone feels like they're failing as a parent.
And that's like to my point.
Which is okay. Like you're doing great.
Yes. And the system is failing, like full stop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's, I think, useful to have the insight after pivoting away from it to see what that has done to people, whether it's critical thinking or what have you. This isn't specifically about like me pivoting as a career move, but that was my experience with it more than anything. I did keep a lot of the processes, distilling research into a digestible format, blah, blah, blah. But for me, it's really been about meeting people where they are in that regard. It's like saying the education system has failed you is no longer just a funny insult. Like it's actually true.
Yeah.
In a lot of regards. So
open the schools in many ways also works.
Yes. All right.
Woo, on that note.
Well, Lauren did ask a royal related question. Thank you, Lauren. But
wait, did she put in this? Did she put in this?
No, I put it.
Okay, that's so funny.
So Lauren asked a royal related question that really spoke to my soul. She asked, this came to me as my child spilled all of her cereal. Do the Waleses still have Nanny Maria? Where is she? What does she do now that they're grown? And she said, sister wives, if you know, you know. And so I inserted in our outline, Christine
Brown.
Formerly Brown. She's remarried. God bless her. I love sister wives. What does the nanny do? If you haven't watched the COVID seasons of Sister Wives or like listened to a recap podcast about them.
Well, I got to listen.
Oh, it's so funny. What does the nanny do? So I looked into this. Yes, I believe the Waleses do still have Nanny Maria. You can sometimes spot her on the sidelines of royal events. There was an article this past year. Oh, where's the date? It was 2025 talking about like Nanny Maria. And apparently the last bit of gossip we got about Nanny Maria was that there is a word that is banned in the Wales household.
Oh, I kind of remember this, but I don't remember the word.
The word is kids. The young royals are always to be referred to as children or by their names. It's a mark of respect for the children as individual.
Okay, no, that's funny. There's this whole thing about William and Kate are so laid back. It's not Princess Charlotte or any of this stuff. It's just their kids. It's like, but you can't say kids.
They're children. Yeah, so the speculation is, well, Kate's so hands-on, so she obviously works closely with Nanny Maria, but she doesn't live in with them because they're in Adelaide Cottage, except, oops, now they moved to Royal Lodge and have 10 bedrooms. Or not Royal Lodge, but Forest Lodge.
Wow. Freudian slip.
So, yeah, I don't know what the nanny does anymore, and I think that's by design.
What does the nanny do?
She's been with them since Prince George was 8 months old, apparently.
So My guess, and I don't know, maybe this is just my dream world of how I would use a nanny, and oddly enough, my children are all very close in ages to Kate's. We were, like, kinda
You were
popping
right
out
there.
kids around the same time, I guess. But at that age, I think you need some oversight with the homework. You got 3 kids doing homework, you need some help. You probably gotta keep Louis focused. I have a feeling we need a lot of breaks, activity breaks, is just my guess.
Mm,
I relate to Louis. He's magical. But I think you're doing that. I think maybe every once in a while, Kate's like, I need help with dinner. I
yeah.
need you to run out and do stuff. I need you to run George to soccer, or like you supervise
It
that or
would
play dates or whatever. You need
It
an
would
extra
make
set of hands.
sense. You do need an extra set of hands. I think any parent would admit that, but especially as the royals, right? Where, yeah, Will and Kate don't work a ton, but they do have obligations. They do have stuff they do behind the scenes. And not just to have an extra set of hands, but to have a trusted set of hands
Yeah,
with
like
those kids.
this is someone who's not leaking. You know, you can trust. You have an established relationship, and she knows things about your family. Like she knows George doesn't like, like Fruit Loops. He likes Fruity Pebbles.
And
I'm
I
making
mean,
that up, but you know what I mean. It's little things like that.
and yeah, exactly. And she's an Orland nanny. This is the top tier nanny. They earn like, what is it, $150,000 a year or something like
And
that?
the wrong job.
Because they are trained in skills such as, quote, getaway driving, martial arts, while pushing a pram to fend off kidnappers or paparazzi.
Wait, that reminds me of that royal movie you made me
Yeah, I
watch
was
where
thinking
she
that.
has
Yeah,
to
yeah.
use the umbrella a
You
lot.
chose to watch that. What are you talking about?
Okay, I thought we were both watching it, and then I realized that it was me, and then I had to give the synopsis. But listen, it was a great time.
So that's, I think, what the nanny does. She is just a trusted set of hands. I mean, royals have had this for ages, right? They had governesses, they had ladies of the bedchamber. Queen Victoria had a governess that turned into like a member of her staff when she graduated into queendom. So, like, it's very possible she'll be around forever, Nanny
I
Maria.
think so, and especially, like, over the past year with Kate's health and stuff, having some sort of normalcy
Uh-huh.
is really important, and
Yeah.
especially if Kate and William are traveling, again, out that they work a lot, it's good to have that person that, the kids know this person and trust this person, and they're very ingrained. Because it's not like, I mean, you can't just go on nanny.com or citysitter.com or whatever and find a nanny. I mean, these kids can't just be running out wearing whatever, going wild. The nanny understands like the certain
And it's
protocols.
in a way like smart to have that and not
Yeah.
go into it naively like, oh, we're so down to earth, we can just do it ourselves, because at some point a personal assistant would be foisted with the kids,
And
and
guess
that would go
what?
so badly.
Hot take. You're entitled, you're royalty, you're not relatable. Like, you're not, and that's
Lean in.
okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. Have the nanny. What does the nanny do? Probably a lot of like random shit.
Yeah. She's a part of the family, I'm sure we would be told. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our mailbag today. There were so many that we didn't get to. So I'm going to roll them over into the winter mailbag and just have
Ooh,
a
I love
baseline
that.
there. So if we didn't answer your question today, just know it is banked. And
Yeah.
just like a resume, it will go into the drawer. And when we are hiring again, we will be in touch.
Yes.
So thank you so much for listening. I love these episodes. I just need to remember, Amanda, you love a mailbag episode whenever it gets too crazy and we can't do one.
Yeah, it is actually really fun. And we always forget that. And then it becomes a task that we avoid so much that it's like something is bad about this task, but it's not. We forget things.
Yeah. We can do hard things though, Meredith.
We can do hard things.
That's our mantra.
I
right
will
now.
succeed
Because I am insane. Amen. Hallelujah.
All right. Well, until next mailbag that we ignore and put off.
No,
Just
it's not
kidding.
going to happen.
I'm kidding.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.